My name is Bill McCune. If you pick up an American history textbook, you'd read that the losing candidate in the 1964 presidential election was named Barry Goldwater, a conservative Republican senator from Arizona. And it might not say much more, and that would be a shame. For Barry Goldwater's life was exciting and satisfying long before he ever ran for public office. A very secure man, for him, politics was not a way to fulfill some psychological need for power. Rather, it was motivated by a deep love of country, a strong belief in the wisdom of the Constitution of the United States. Politics to him was doing and saying what you thought was right, regardless of the political consequences. We hope you'll enjoy and learn from the telling of his story. And let me add this. For perhaps 50 years, starting in the late 1920s, Goldwater made home movies on 16mm film, sometimes setting up the camera, then getting in front of it. Probably 80% of the old footage you'll see here was shot by Barry Goldwater himself. Now please join us for Barry Goldwater, An American Life. Barry Goldwater did not want to run for President of the United States. What Barry Goldwater did want was to persuade a nation to listen to a message. America was drifting away from concepts that had made her the envy of the world. A message of limited government, of the productivity of a free market economy, of the value of self-reliant Americans, the worth and responsibility of the individual. Too simple, too old-fashioned. This guy's a nut, said some critics. Barry Goldwater did not want to run for president. But if the race was to be made, he'd let the chips fall where they may. He shoots from the hip, they said. He has the courage of his convictions, said others, and added, I don't agree with him, but I respect his honesty, his candor. And so they voted, and chose a different set of promises. But as years passed and events unfolded, abroad and at home, some have concluded that perhaps Barry Goldwater had indeed offered America something special back in 1964, an integrity that transcends fleeting political issues.
This same president, by viewing the world as little more than precincts and wards, is also turning off lights, lights of leadership, lights of conscience, lights of honesty, lights of strength, and lights of courage. And these lights need turning on.
Not to suggest that candor can't be found in others from time to time, but with Barry Goldwater it all seems to come so naturally.
Well, I happen to think I'm in a pretty tough race, and I'm spending the money that I legally can. That's the answer. In fact, it's a stupid question, if you don't mind my saying so.
A straightforward style, inherited perhaps from rugged ancestors whose efforts were remembered and appreciated.
Any chance that a man gets to serve his country, he's happy in. I'm happy that I have the opportunity to try and contribute something to the country that's been so good to generations of Goldwaters who sneaked into this country from England via Poland. And I just want to help pay for our rent, so to speak, on this land.
It's surprising for some to learn that the story begins in the Jewish ghettos of Poland under the repressive control of Tsarist Russia. Born in 1821, Misha Goldwasser was one of 22 children. He learned early that there was no future in a country where Jews could neither own property nor pursue higher education. He fled to Paris, then to London, where he married Sarah Nathan, had 2 children, and anglicized his name to Michael Goldwater. Then around 1850, he and his brother Joseph joined the dream shared by many and sailed for a place called California. He was to send for the family just as soon as he struck gold. Well, if they didn't strike gold, they did find something better, opportunity. In Sonora, California, they opened a saloon and did pretty well for a while. Sarah and the children arrived, but she chose to live in more civilized San Francisco. Goldwater was re-elected, by 35,000 votes. There had been other conservative Republican leaders, Senator Robert Taft of Ohio, but Barry Goldwater had something Taft had lacked, great appeal on the stump and on the new medium called television.
One of the most least pretentious of politicians I've ever known, Senator Barry Goldwater.
The demand for Goldwater appearances increased. Again, he was asked to chair the Senate Republican Campaign Committee. Some more moderate to liberal Republicans might have preferred that he didn't give his speech in their hometowns, but nonetheless appreciated his ability to fill a banquet hall and raise money. But there was also increased demand for his message. With the help of Stephen Shattuck, he began writing a 3-time-a-week newspaper column entitled, "How Do You Stand, Sir?" In a matter of months, it was picked up by 50 newspapers. And then there was The Conscience of a Conservative, a book of Goldwater speeches edited by Brent Bozell of National Review magazine. The 123-page volume eventually sold 4 million copies. It was understandable that citizens might agree or disagree with Goldwater's views, but he was almost universally liked as a person and respected for his honesty and candor.
I've always said what's on my mind. I've never stopped to figure whether it be smart politics or not. So that's where they got the idea of shooting from the hip. Didn't bother me. That's the way I lived. And that's the way I continue to live.
In addition to Republican rallies, he was often invited to address business and industry organizations for which substantial speaking fees, or honoraria, were paid. All such funds went to charity.
The honorarium would frequently be in the vicinity, whatever, of $5,000, $10,000. A lot of money. He did not keep a dime of that honorarium. It never even occurred to him to keep it.